I'm Steve Plumb, Senior Editor of Manufacturing Engineering Magazine. Welcome to another edition of SME Media Webinar. Our topic today is product documentation and how digital tools can reduce supply chain disruption as well as improve employee comprehension, performance, engagement, and satisfaction. This presentation is sponsored by Canvas GFX, which is helping manufacturers transition to interactive digital documentation. Today's presenter is CEO Pat Hume, an experienced industry leader who's been with Canvas GFX since 2019. Before I turn things over to Pat, I'd like to outline how the webinar will proceed. On the right side of the screen, you should see a question and answer box. If at any time during the presentation you'd like to ask a question, please type it in this box and send it along. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Should you experience any difficulty during the webinar, such as a blank screen or lack of sound, please use the Q&A box to alert us and we'll respond in writing with the suggested fix. I'd also like to remind you that the presentation will be available to view later today. You can watch the recorded version at your convenience at any time and as many times as you like to catch details you might have missed. All you need to do is sign in again using the credentials you used to join us now. You can even share these credentials with colleagues who might benefit from learning more about this topic. That's it for me, so let's turn it over the microphone to Pat.
Thank you very much, Steve, and thanks everyone for joining today. First and foremost, as Steve said, my name is Pat Hume, and I am the CEO of Canvas GFX. A little bit of background on Canvas. We are a software company that, as Steve indicated, is focused on interactive digital transformation of manufacturing businesses. We're going to talk today about the critical importance of documentation to manufacturing companies. While product documentation has always been important, our thesis is it's probably more important now than ever before because of the kinds of challenges that manufacturers are facing today. We also have a strong belief that you can't have great products without great documentation, content, and workflows. High quality products require high quality documentation. So as we started to think about building the software product that we take to market today, we were really taking a hard look at what was happening in the manufacturing sector, not only in the United States, but globally. One of the data points that we use and constantly monitor comes out of the National Association for Manufacturers, and their latest member survey ratifies some of the thoughts that we had based on prior research and the reason why we built our Canvas Envision platform. So what you can see here is the kinds of challenges that businesses are facing today. And I don't think any of this is foreign to any of you, but every day we read more and more about supply chain challenges and the time it's going to take for them to resolve. I think pre-pandemic, certainly manufacturers were concerned about the quality of their workforce, the retention of their workforce, the ability to train new employees. But I think post-pandemic, this particular issue kind of came up much higher in the list of challenges manufacturers were facing. And then the rest of it kind of ripples still around supply chain and challenges, but increased cost in materials and transportation, logistics cost, insurance, et cetera. All of this is something that is top of mind for manufacturers in the United States today. And yes, of course, there are continued supply chain bottlenecks. The things that are damaging supply chain, I would say the global political situation weighs heavily here, right? We're seeing problems that, in our view, they're not going to go away fast. And what we read, what we see, there's an indication that our supply chain challenges are here for a while. The Russian-Ukraine situation is affecting shipping, air, rail, freight, and even the continued and present threat of COVID, particularly in the Chinese market, is reducing output, therefore exacerbating a continued problem in the supply chain. And then when we think about the number two problem, which of course was the workforce challenges that manufacturers are facing, it is hard. And we've heard it from many of our customers to attract this next generation of workers and to be able to not only attract, but retain them, and dealing with the diversity of the population with whom manufacturers are working today. We do see, and we will continue to see workforce shortages. We are seeing knowledge leaving the workforce. We see, over 50% of the people that are leaving manufacturing are over 55, and therefore the years of experience and knowledge they have, they're taking with them. Yeah, the level of diversity is rising greatly. So these challenges on top of supply chain makes it difficult for manufacturing to perform efficiently, effectively, and profitably. So where does documentation fit into this? Why does Canvas think about and worry about giving our manufacturers an opportunity to digitally transform into interactive work instructions? This is a customer. I won't name who it is, but one of our customers came to us and told us this story. And the story is as follows. This is a company who has historically had text-heavy documents, PDF, printed documents, hard copy, right? And they would pass those into their shop floor team. Their shop floor team is made up of a highly diverse population, of which only 20%, of which 20% are non-native speakers. In other words, not everyone has English as their first language. So when these text-heavy English documents were being passed to the shop floor, 20% of the people struggled to read and understand them. And you can understand that if they can't understand the work instruction, it's difficult to do the job. And so there were errors causing high scrap rates. Their yields were nowhere near where they needed to be. The quality of the product was being diminished, and parts were being scrapped. So this led then, of course, to a delay in being able to fulfill their orders. The supply chain inability to get the parts refilled immediately also caused the delay. And the costs were starting to escalate to a point where, the company could no longer afford to do what they were doing. The error rates, if we go around the slide, decreased employee satisfaction. People felt bad. They didn't love their jobs. They weren't able to perform their jobs. So needless to say, there was high turnover. And then this led to the need to try to find new people, try to train the people, and using those text-heavy hard copy documents was proving to be quite difficult. This company did indeed purchase our Canvas Vision platform and were able to leverage the power of interactive digital work instructions, thereby improving greatly the concerns that they had had prior to being an Envision customer. There's also a generational issue that companies are dealing with. We, Canvas, did a survey of 500 manufacturers earlier this year, again, to sort of inform us what should we be doing and what do manufacturers really need in order to improve their product documentation. And it's interesting that when you look across the different age groups at the bottom of the slide, you start to learn that the younger the individual, the less likely they are to want to have to work with text-heavy documentation. It's not only challenging because of the diversity concerns that we had on the prior slide, but also different reading levels, comprehension, how they learn, etc. And what was surprising to us in this last decade of digital transformation, decade plus, 28% of US manufacturers still admit to using hard copy documentation. There's also a concern about what we call the creative block, the ability to create the content efficiently, effectively, was another area that we studied in our survey. And we were informed that delays in documentation are indeed everywhere. There are bottlenecks from work instructions to learning materials to even marketing, sales, and certainly maintenance and serviceability documentation. And these are frequent problems. You can kind of see on the stats on the right-hand side that greater than 50% in this particular section of our survey were indeed stating that late and delayed documentation was causing more errors affecting company performance. And when I say performance, I'm talking about the ability to get the product into the hands of the customer in a timely fashion to continue to drive revenue and customer satisfaction. So the key thing for us was, well, okay, what's causing these bottlenecks? What can we do to continue to improve our product to be able to help alleviate the bottlenecks that manufacturers were telling us about? And I think you probably would this resonates with you, I would hope, that, waiting for 3D visualizations from engineering, people have to call engineers and say, hey, I need a screenshot of the latest subassembly or the latest, part or the sets of parts or whatever. And engineers are busy. They're not waiting around to be able to take screenshots and send them off to the content creators. When given an opportunity to work with 3D models, the creators were unable to do so. They're not technically trained. And so there was that issue was brought to our attention. Secondly, they talked about the applications that they use today. And the existing apps have been around quite a long time. And there's all sorts of challenges with the existing applications, everything from very technical, heavy. Workflows are a little chaotic because we're coming in and out of the tools, bringing content in, bringing data in, bringing images in, etc. And this, of course, then led to there's just too many apps used in the process. So it's not a single workflow, a single pane of glass. And then lastly, another thing we want to highlight is the number of people involved in the creation and approval, the time spent collaborating and reviewing content. The company we talked about a little bit earlier, these PDFs would be emailed back and forth prior to final publishing to be able to make sure that the approvals were happening and the documents were really final and ready to be moved to the shop floor. No concept of real-time collaboration, no concept of people being able to very rapidly take a look at a document and edit, mark up, and review. So these were some of the bottlenecks that we thought about when we were building Canvas Envision, and of course the product addresses all of this. There's another really interesting scientific analysis that we read. This is not a Canvas published document. It was actually created through a university. The Journal of Operations Management put this together in 2021, and it really looked at the question of paper versus digital versus a combination of paper and digital. And the experiment was designed to test a thesis that interactive digital work instructions are more effective at knowledge transfer than flat text-based hard copy documents. So the thesis was, we think interactive digital work instructions are better, but they didn't want to just, state that. What they actually did is they put together an experiment. And the experiment was conducted with a group of university students at their manufacturing center. and I think this is really fascinating. They asked three groups of students, three different groups of students, to perform a task of assembling this pencil holder on the right-hand side of the slide. So they all were asked to do the same thing, put the pencil holder together. They were using the same instructions, and they had to do it 4 times in a row. And the performance, the thesis to be validated was judged by the number of defects that were caused, number of errors, and the time it took to complete the task. So here's what was really interesting. So paper on the error side in the first attempt, paper plus digital. So what we mean by that is the guys are looking at a paper manual, and they're also looking at a digital rendering of the instructions. They found that there were 42% fewer errors the first attempt, but with just digital, there was 60% fewer errors. And there's a reason for this, which I'll explain in a moment. By the fourth attempt, paper and digital improved slightly, and the digital experience declined slightly, and there's also a reason for that. Now, if we look at time, the paper plus digital was 11 times faster to get the task done than with simply paper, and 19% faster with digital. But by the fourth attempt, the paper plus digital work group was 5% slower than the guys using simply paper. So it's really interesting study that ratifies Canvas's thesis that people learn through what they can see better than just reading text, the ability to also see that which they're trying to assemble. So think of your 3D model coming to life, but contextually in a single pane of glass with commingled with text, but in one simple environment. Yeah. And the reason that the fourth attempt of digital plus paper was slower, it's because of something called a split attention effect. That means I've got to look at this document and I got to look at this digital representation. And the way, and I'm no neuroscience, I'm certainly not, a neurospecialist, but the paper does tell us that it takes higher mental effort and longer processing time to work across 2 documents than it is to just have a digital representation of that which you need your employees to do. So how do you handle a change? The study revealed, of course, that firms should implement digital instructions, radically replacing paper-based instructions rather than incrementally adding them to the paper-based instruction. We know that the new generation learns through an immersive experience. They grew up playing digital games. They like to interact with the content that they're expected to learn. And so, again, we've integrated all of these thoughts into the Canvas Envision product. So just to remind you, where does document fit? Well, the ability to replace this text-heavy hard copy documentation with interactive digital work instructions would allow this shop floor team of native and non-native speakers to have a better experience, thereby reducing errors, thereby not having to spend additional money and incur delay, right? People would be happier, right? We want to go to work. We want to do the job. We want to do it well. So hopefully retention would improve. And then, of course, the need to hire or train more people would no longer be important to the company. And again, as we've said, the primary current business challenges you guys are facing has to do with your supply chain. And we think we can help. With attracting and retaining a quality workforce, we think we can help. And then the residual effects of, the supply chain problems and the workforce problems. Our customers are telling us that they are indeed receiving benefits pretty big benefits from the implementation of interactive digital work instructions. So that's what I had to share with you today. Just as a summary, Canvas is super excited about the role we can play in helping manufacturers, not only in the United States, but globally. And I'd love to hear from you. Any questions, comments that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat. That was very informative. And we have received a few questions from the audience, which we'll begin to address. And if you haven't already done so, you can still submit one. And remember, if you are unable to stay around till the end, that you can revisit this webinar at any time. So the first question is kind of a chicken and the egg proposition. And if the benefits of moving to digital instructions are this clear cut, why aren't more companies doing it?
Yeah, it's a great question. When we talk to our companies, the different prospects and customers, people struggle with change. I mean, it's a natural human phenomena, and introducing digital interactive instructions is a change, and change management can be hard. And in a lot of cases, they just don't know how to get started, right? Part of the problem is that they often have processes that are really deeply embedded and understood by the long-serving employees. So we go into an organization, a large manufacturing organization in the United States, and they've done it a certain way for a very long time. So, it's part of change that we see that is sort of slowing them down to get moving into the right direction. But we can see that we're in the midst of this generational shift in the workforce, right? It's a reality. We hear it every day. And the younger generation wants to work with technology that reflects how they live, using their devices for everything, right? They're used to multimedia and interactivity, which I said earlier, grew up with video games, right? And smart devices. And so what we're seeing is that as the workforce changes, there's more and more appetite to embrace the change management required. Secondly, we see even in the large OEMs, the large manufacturing companies in the United States, there's a tremendous amount of innovation taking place. And we find that the innovators are very apt to move into a digital instruction environment rather than rely on old technology. So my humble opinion is that we're going to continue to see a movement. Certain companies will move more rapidly than others, but I think it's inevitable that at some point in the future, all manufacturers will be using interactive digital instructions, whether it be for assembly, for training, for fix and repair in the field. I think it's just a technology evolution that we're going to see, and adoption will be up to the company and the individual's willingness to change.
You had mentioned that companies should go directly towards the digital format opposed to the intermediary steps of digital paper. Does that apply, regardless of the age and experience of the workforce?
A good question. I would say yes. All right. I would say it's like when you were a kid and your mother had to take your Band-Aid off, or your father or your brother or your sister. If they took their time peeling the Band-Aid, it always hurt. But if they just ripped it off, it didn't hurt at all. So this is kind of analogous to, you've got to rip the Band-Aid off. You've got to, have the fortitude and the thoughtfulness to say, look, man, the way it's working right now is not really efficient. And the best thing to do is try to get into the new environment as quickly as possible. We've actually had customers say to us, can you help us take our old documents and get them into a digital environment using your platform? And our answer is yes, of course we can, because we know these changes aren't easy. And there's probably a ton of documentation out. One of our customers told us they have made 1 million documents with our product. I was shocked, but glad to see it. Yeah. So we know it's not trivial, and we're not trying to trivialize what a big initiative and undertaking this could be for certain companies.
So from a manufacturing standpoint, are you seeing connections between the high-level C-level issues that you mentioned and how they manage their documentation?
Yeah, another great question. And the reason it's interesting, we had a call from the chairman and CEO of a very large heavy equipment manufacturer in the United States. And I was honored that the gentleman would take time out of his incredibly busy day to have a conversation with us. And I asked him why. I said, it's interesting that you're taking this call, because I doubt highly you're the guy that's writing the docs. And he was extremely professional and cordial. He said, no, I'm not the guy writing the docs. I'm the guy that's responsible for the P&L and for customer sat and for my board and my shareholders. And he said, I have a real problem. He said, my workforce is dramatically changing, and I can't get the new generation of workers into a 2-week hydraulics class that is a paper-driven class. It just isn't working, and I need new tools to be able to deal with my new workforce, or I'm going to be competitively disadvantaged. So while he's not the guy that's writing the content, as I said in the beginning of this webinar, great products need great documentation. And while documentation may be an afterthought, it is fundamental to the success of the product. And so, is there a connection? There most certainly is, because if the documents are not clear, we have scrap on the manufacturing floor. If the documents are not clear, the men and women in the field that have to fix and repair can't do it. If the documentation is not clear, the new hires that we're trying to attract and retain can't learn. So there may be an apparent gap. At the end of the day, the executive suite cares greatly.
That kind of rolls into the next question. On one of your slides, you had a quote from Deloitte about making manufacturing attractive to the next generation. Does digital product documentation help in this regard and actually make it more exciting for these younger generations to get enthused about manufacturing careers?
I believe so. And the reason I say that, even at my age, I get a lot more curious when someone is showing me something that I can actually interact with and understand in the learning modality that is consistent with how I learn, versus being handed a very heavy 200-page PDF to try to learn or to understand whatever concept or idea is trying to be communicated to me. And I think that's true about all of us, and I don't think it's generational. I think that the ability to really see what it is that you're trying to understand is far better than to sit and read a very long, dense text document. So I think it's important that companies evolve to interactive documents. Documents are what's used across the company so people can communicate what it is they need to communicate to those that need to learn it.
All right. Here's a technical question for you. Do you need to use Canvas 2D and 3D design products in order to create Canvas Envision digital interactive instructions, or can they use SolidWorks?
So we don't, let me step back. Canvas Envision platform imports in the CAD models. So we would bring a SolidWorks model in, or a CATIA or a JT file. So we support every 2D and 3D CAD model that's in the industry today. Those models are brought into our creator engine. And once they're there, the author, the creator of the content, is able to leverage the power of our algorithms and our software to create the document. So, and then that document is published and is then able to be consumed on any browser, any device, anywhere in the world. So we are the document creation platform that is dependent upon the 2D, 3D CAD models in order for the author to do his or her magic.
Okay. So you had some great examples with the university lab experiments. Are you finding the same results in the real world that you saw in those examples?
We are indeed. Our customers have been reporting to us, because we ask, efficiency gains, time to benefit gains, higher quality results, and across the different key performance indicators, the different KPIs that matter to the different use cases. In every instance, we are delivering very rapid improvement. So there is a very quick ROI once the individuals have been onboarded with the Canvas Envision product. They're starting to see results fairly quickly.
Okay. And how quick can companies get set up in the process?
Yeah, so the product is a hybrid cloud platform today. It takes us about an hour to get a customer live and ready to use the product. So there's no surround services needed for implementation and whatnot. We intentionally made it very easy for people to be able to very quickly get access to the product. And then secondarily, the user experience and the user interface, it's highly intuitive. Customers tell us it's very easy to use. But for those that aren't comfortable, we do provide a tremendous amount of support with our customer onboarding team to ensure the customer can achieve those rapid ROIs that I spoke of a little bit earlier.
So conversely, what are some of the challenges and barriers that you've found in helping getting companies to get on board and actually implement the digital systems?
It's a great question. It goes back to the challenges manufacturers are facing. Certainly, companies are keen to adopt new technology to drive efficiency. But when a company is faced with a crisis like unavailability of parts that are crucial for them to be able to fulfill their backlog of orders, unfortunately for us and for them, net new technology adoption is not number one priority. And we certainly understand that, right? We appreciate and understand that if the company is struggling, and we had one customer that said, I love this product, prospect. I want to buy this product in Q4. I have so many challenges in my company that I have to wait till Q1. So what we hear is it's not a no, we don't like it. No, we're not going to do it. No, the product is not what we want. It's more, we have a higher priority right now. Now, there are companies that say, this tool will help resolve my higher priorities. So it just depends on the company, the size of the company, right? We made the product highly competitive because we have an honest and sincere concern for manufacturers. We want manufacturing to improve. We recognize the importance, especially to our own economy here at home in the United States, but also globally. And, we want to do our part. So we've made the product highly competitively priced. And as I said before, easy to onboard to help overcome those objections of, geez, I've got, a different problem right now that's consuming me.
So has the need for this accelerated then during the pandemic and the recent supply chain disruptions?
I would say 100% yes. If I go back and I'd look over the history since I've been in the company, the number of customers that we have acquired since I've joined in has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the team and the market dynamics. We have grown considerably over the last 3 years, with particular emphasis on 21 and 22, because we were coming out of the pandemic and people were, finally putting their heads back up. And we've just seen tremendous growth in the business because of the value that we're bringing to customers.
So, technology is advancing rapidly with everything from smart manufacturing, Industry 4.0, digital twins, new CAD CAM systems, big data. How does this fit into the overall equation, and is it forward compatible with future innovations?
Yes. So let me answer that. Our customers have given us tremendous feedback on the product. We are continually innovating our technology to meet their needs. So areas like integration with larger enterprise software solutions, that means getting the APIs, the application programming interfaces, into the product so it can be integrated into other enterprise software. So that is been a requirement to, if you were forward looking, so that we integrate in and we're part of a tech stack that manufacturers are building, number one. Number two, new devices, right? We render beautifully on smartphones and tablets and laptops, etc. But AR and VR devices, we're working with a large company right now on proof of concept to have the product integrate with VR and AR devices, so future technology. And then lastly, there is a strong requirement from the very large enterprises to be able to integrate our product into their private clouds. And so again, being part not only of the tech stack, but the delivery mechanisms is extremely important. So delivering from within their private clouds or behind their firewalls has been another requirement that we have indeed responded to, giving our customers options.
So highly flexible and customizable.
Yeah. Customer is the final arbiter, right? We've got to deliver what they need, not what we think they need.
Well, great. Well, thanks a lot, Pat. Been very informative.
Thank you.
As this webinar has shown, improving product documentation can provide significant benefits to manufacturing companies and their employees. And SME and SME Media also can help you keep abreast of the latest developments of digitalization and other advanced manufacturing technologies. Check out our podcast at advancedmanufacturingnow.com to listen to a wide variety of manufacturing professionals discuss the challenges, opportunities, and factors impacting manufacturing today. And always keep an eye out for breaking news and coverage of the latest technology and strategies for manufacturing at sme.org/latest-news. Thanks for joining us on SME Media Webinar. We hope you found it very informative and you'll join us for future webinars. Thanks again, Pat.
Thanks, Steve.